Computer. Oh, sorry about that. The sun.
Oh, it's good.
Okay.
Sun is bright.
Hi, everybody. This is Nikki Scully. It's Tuesday, May 15th, and this is our Planetary Healing Call to Action. And tonight we are working with the pollution of plastics in the ocean. And I want to explain a few things before we do the journey, and then get into the journey, and then get into the sharing, and try and do it all within an hour, as I promised. So, or as I hoped. Do you all know what a gyre is? I didn't know what a gyre was till I started researching this word, and so I'm going to explain it. There are 5 major ones in the oceans, and countless minor ones. And these are currents that have been created so that they respond to the rotation of the Earth and what's called the Coriolis force, which is an inertial force that acts on objects that are in reference in a clockwise motion or a counterclockwise motion, depending upon where you are on the planet. And this deflection of an object is what's called the Coriolis effect. So I'll get past this technical stuff really quickly. It's they come in all sizes, so even an eddy or one of those water wheels. Whirlpools, I mean. Thank you. Are gyres. And I'm going to show you a picture. Let me put on the screen share, and I'm going to bring up a picture of, let's see, not this one. Well, this is a good picture because it's going to tell you what we're focusing on. See how this whale that's deteriorating is filled with plastic? Oh, this is what we're after. This is a consistent scene all over the planet right now. And if you look up pictures of deteriorating sea creatures and birds, you'll find lots of them. Okay, this is a map of the gyres. But well, let's look at this picture first, because this is kind of interesting. Let's see if I can get it to come up large. Oops, no. Anyway, the one we're going to work with is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And it's huge, but that's not quite the image I was trying to show you. Let me try this one and see. There, this shows you the 5 main ones. And the North Pacific one is what gets the most garbage because it gets all the most populated countries. And the way it works is with the Coriolis force, the plastic bits of all sizes are all kind of drawn together into these existing currents on the planet. And here, just today, the National Geographic came out. Its cover is a picture of this plastic coming out of the water. And here's a picture inside of a sea turtle wrapped up in plastic netting, which has become one of the worst pollutants, because where they used to use, rope, or if they use something like hemp, which is really strong, this wouldn't happen. But as soon as these break, they just discard them. And so they float around the ocean, and that's what happens. So I suggest you look at this month's National Geographic and just look up gyres and plastic pollution, and you're going to get your mind blown. So in this journey, we're actually going to attempt to affect the gravitational force in order to condense the plastic, to gather it into a tighter and more manageable structure that squeezes out the water so that there is some clean water for the fish of the area to be able to move around in, because they can't really escape this. It's to say that it has a stranglehold on sea creatures and plants is an understatement. So the purpose of this journey came to us when we asked for help. And it became obvious that there are a multitude of answers. And so with all of us asking for help at once, we're also going to invoke, as we do with every planetary healing call, all the spirit guides and beings and intelligent forms throughout the universe that respond to our call whenever we do this and show up. And then we're going to have to pay attention and surrender our egos to allow our high selves to be in communication with these other beings that, because they have a different perspective and a different level of intelligence, may have solutions for us or ideas that we can then act upon. And so that's kind of what we're going to do. So it's just important that each of you that's on this call know that you can ask for help and you can get answers. And so just be prepared to help in ways that you couldn't have imagined, so that we can deal with this crisis of plastic that's degrading the quality of water and consequently the quality of life in our oceans. My first experience with this happened decades ago, and it still wrenches my heart when I think about it. I wrote about it, if any of you read that particular newsletter, being in an isolated place on the Southern California coast near the marina, where there was just nobody but me and this giant brown pelican. And he had a plastic water bottle stuck in his beak so that he couldn't move it. And he was huge. And I didn't know what to do. So I sat with the pelican for a couple of hours to comfort it and hope that help would come by so that somebody could help me to hold the pelican while I opened its mouth or do whatever. I just knew I couldn't do it myself. And it just horrified me. And to this day, I have this ghost of this pelican and wonder if I was just a coward or whether I actually could have done something myself. But I know that at the time, I didn't think I could. And it was just heart-wrenching to have to leave him and not be able to get help. I was a very long ways from anywhere. And so I'm dedicating this work to that pelican. And then when I started researching and started seeing, there's one picture of a pelican that was decomposing, and it was completely filled with plastic garbage, just like that whale was. And that's happening everywhere. And you'll see that the garbage patches are only part of the problem. So I think I'd like for us to just get into this journey and see what happens. And you're going to have to look closely with your mind's eye or your imagination. Those of you that aren't accustomed to doing this work, please know that your imagination is the lightning rod of the shaman. It's all ideas are preceded by imaginings. Any manifestation starts with the imagination. And so imagination, if you're not a seer, like I'm not a seer, will jumpstart the process, as will memory. So we're going to work on memory to get us there as well, so that you can begin to picture what we need to see in order to fully understand the problem and ask for help.
Nikki?
Yes?
I'd just like to add something about the plastic. It's
Okay.
not only
I
the...
want to make you look. How do I make?
Just a second, I'll spotlight.
Okay.
So it's not only the garbage that we can see, like the larger pieces of plastic. There's also all the little micro beads of plastic that are floating in the water.
That's in the journey.
Okay.
We're getting there.
You know me. I always skip ahead.
Okay. Okay. So there's so many of you that are on this call that have worked with me a lot, and so you know what the heart breath is. So I'm going to ask you to start doing the heart breath now and work the heart breath until you feel that surge where we're all connected, and everybody else that's on this call will be connected as well. Because the first thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is take a moment to look within and find your eternal heart flame, that spark of your soul's flame, that eternal flame that lives in your heart center. And as you bring that focus in whatever way you do, whether you imagine it, see it, feel it, or simply know it's there, feed it with love. Love is the fuel. And now just begin to take some deep, calming breaths. Feel yourself relax. And then notice when that surge hits and you become part of this circle of people from around the world who are on this call. And so once that surge happens, the light that's created when our heart flames merge is so bright and so extensive that it acts like a beacon. And all these beings throughout the universe in all times and spaces and dimensions that are wanting to help us are called toward that light. And you can, if you can't see them, you can feel them come in. If you see them and you recognize them, some of them, greet them. They're deities of all pantheons. There are animal totems, plant medicine allies, spirit guides of all kinds, ancestors. And as you become aware of the as above, so we're the so below, the ground, the manifested here on the planet that's doing the work. And all these other beings are coming in to help us. So invoke any spirit guides that you have, or any ancestors, or beings. They don't have to be blood relatives, beings that you admire from the past to join us and help us. People like Einstein and Gandhi and some of the great minds of the past, because like I said, we need all the help we can get. And if you haven't already, you might find it works better if your eyes are closed. And be aware of your breathing. And also become aware of your nervous system and the electricity of it. And get a sense of how it's functioning, how the synapses are firing. And then move your attention to the fluids in your body. Everything from your blood to the stomach acids. We're more than 70% water. So, you know, there's a lot of fluid you can connect to in your own body. And just remember that it's water that combines with all these other substances in order for our bodies to get the job of living done. And as you're focused on liquids and water and how they combine, let your mind wander to the oceans oh so long ago when the clipper ship sailed the seas in the 19th century, and how pristine the oceans were compared to what they're like now. And plastic, of course, isn't our only problem. I am recording this, but yes, go ahead and record it just in case. Sorry, somebody was chatting. Please try not to interrupt during the journey.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay. So while you're enjoying the purity of that clean, clear oceans, there's no sound pollution. It's just nature in its pureness. And then see if you can draw yourself to the moment that first water bottle was tossed off a ship, or that first plastic net was released, or whatever plastic item was the first ever introduced into a body of water. And then let yourself just follow the history of the seas. How more and more pollution was introduced. How garbage is just jumped off these party cruise ships, and how regardless of the rules, so much is released directly into the oceans, sort of out of sight, out of mind. Think about the different forms that plastic comes in, the bottles, the jugs, cosmetics, just endless amounts of plastic debris of all manner. I mean, even boats are made of plastic, and docks are made of plastic. And when they break, they just float away. And when Fukushima happened, Well, all of that debris that was released in the tidal wave, and it was radiated just to make matters worse. So as you notice how disposable items have been tossed into the seas from thousands of boats just moments after they're used, and how we're introducing more and more every day, every minute. Look back again at that first item that you saw. It was tossed so long ago. How would you describe the deterioration of that piece now? Just that one piece. It's not gone because it's never going to be gone. And we'll get down to the molecular structure in a moment. But for now, just try and focus your attention to the North Pacific gyre, the largest one that's currently doing the most damage. And when you imagine how each form of plastic begins the process of degradation the moment it's thrown and washed into the sea, if it's anywhere in the North Pacific, it will be drawn into this gyre eventually, which is why it's become so massive. And the ultraviolet rays are the strongest, most consistent and most sustainable source of force that's working to break down the plastic, because the earth is awash with sunshine, 24 hours a day somewhere, and a lot of the time over that gyre. As each form of plastic continues to break down, it sheds a continuous trail of molecules, so that the older items aren't even recognizable anymore, and yet they've substituted water molecules in a cloud of plastic-based soup. So imagine now as your point of perspective shrinks.
Okay.
And it shrinks to the point where you can see the individual molecules of water and the varying size of plastic goo and chunks. The water molecules themselves are of a consistent size wherever you go, but the plastic has a foundation where the molecules are the smallest, and then there are larger molecules and substructures as your point of perspective grows to the point where you don't see the hydrogen and oxygen molecules anymore, or atoms, I'm sorry. Wait, I've lost my place. The hydrogen and oxygen atoms that make up each water molecule disappear, but you can see the molecules of the plastic waste no matter what size you're viewing. As you continue to observe this gyre that we're focusing on, the sunlight is smeared as it penetrates the contaminated soup. There's still water, and the water's transparent, but the more of the concentration of the plastic pollution there is, the stranger is the coloration of the sunlight. At a certain point, your perspective grows large enough to identify bottles, jugs, and nets. And this is the launching point where we're going to start our actual work. So what we have to do is become the pollution. the plastic, everything from microscopic up to recognizable items. So allow yourself to feel yourself transmogrify as you spread throughout this garbage patch and connect more and more with every level of plastic. With each breath, you can feel the plastic coalescing, and each piece is being pulled together. And it's the atomic weight of the plastic that is acting like gravity that is specific only to plastic. So we're going to work with that atomic weight. And as each piece of plastic is drawn slowly and inexorably toward one another, the clean water is being displaced. It's being pushed out from this ever thickening structure of plastic. I'll give you some time to catch up because I'm asking a lot from you. I mean, we've done a lot of shape-shifting, but I don't think we've ever tried shape-shifting into a substance like plastic. In the beginning, the first noticeable difference is a large blob-like structure floating in the water that's created as the plastic coalesces. And it continues to turn with the current. And pretty soon it elongates. It becomes column-like, penetrating the water, surrounded by fresh seawater. So observe this phenomena, be with it, and observe as the plastic gets firmer, as it constricts, and as the water is expelled from it. There's a sound and a vibration that's associated with this column that's repelling the fish. Actually, it's also repelling the plants and any other life forms in the area. Anything that can propel itself away from the column. There's some things that are trapped, and there's nothing we can do about that. However, the more we consolidate the plastic, the more space there is for fish and sea creatures and plant life. And so you can begin to see the fish swimming through clean water. As you strengthen the vibration of this column, it works like a warning beacon. The clean water's at the edge of the gyre, but as the process continues, the clean seawater moves in from the edge toward the center, further condensing the plastic pollution all this time. So we've already made the first change, and I want to give you enough time to make sure that this part of the process is working, because the future of this column is yet to be determined, and we need help. So take a deep breath and hold this image of this condensed columnar plastic. And allow yourself to relax into transmitting mode. and we're going to send out a call, an SOS. We need help. We need to eradicate this pollution. Now, there's a number of possibilities how this answer might come to each of you. Some of you, your high self might kick into gear and suddenly start picking up new information. Yet, if you pay attention to all the beings that have come in to help us and that we've invoked, they're starting to chatter amongst themselves. And so listen, because they are putting their intelligence, which is very different than ours, to this problem. And if you're able, engage with them. Maybe your spirit guide or your ancestor or whomever you invoked will have something to offer into this conversation. And there may be something that you can do right now to add to this process. And if so, do it. Engage. Be part of the solution now. If you feel yourself stuck, just consciously relax and surrender your ego to allow the wisest part of yourself to come to the fore and engage in this process. And then you just become an observer. But listen carefully, watch carefully, pay careful, close attention. Know that we're all in this together, regardless how far away or in what dimension some of these people live, or these beings live. We're all connected. And they're very willing to help and support us. If answers don't come for you immediately, know that they might come in your dreams tonight or tomorrow night, or while you're riding the bus or the ferry or walking down the street, in the shower. And if you get something important, act on it. And if it's something that needs to be shared, email me and I'll put it in my next newsletter. But regardless of what experience you're having right now, allow yourself to make a commitment, if you will, if you're willing, to take at least one action toward alleviating this crisis. Perhaps you can start a campaign of letter writing to your congressperson. Perhaps you could donate to Greenpeace or one of the many active NGOs that are working on this problem. Get creative. If there are certain spirit allies that have connected to you on this call, go back and engage with them further. You'll find they're quite accessible. You can learn the heart breath if you don't know it. It's on my website in the articles page for free, or it's in all my recent books, starting from Alchemical Healing. So for now, I'm just going to give you a minute to come to completion with whatever information or ideas that you're getting. Make an agreement to return and reconnect to complete if you're not completed for now. And then thank whatever beings or being has come forward to help you, or that you heard in the larger conversation that I believe is still going on. And I'm going to ask you to come back, not all the way back, because I'm aware that some of you are still actively engaged. However, we need to share as much as we can in the time that we have. And so we'll fully ground before we complete the call. But I think sharing is actually part of the conversation. And so I want us to stay as deep into trance as possible and still be able to communicate. And I'm going to switch to a gallery view. Well, a lot of people are on the phone. I'm on page 2. Let me go back to page 1. Okay. Debbie, can you stay on top of who raises their hand?
Yep.
So who is anybody raising their hand at this
I
point?
don't see anyone at this point.
Okay, go ahead, Paula.
Hi, I'm not sure how to raise my hand, so I raised it.
It's up. You raised it. Just raise it.
So, I definitely felt I was pulling, and it was almost as if I was pulling and forming this plastic crystal that came and jetted up. And I was told that it, there was a magic to the fact that that plastic came from all over the world because it could unify the world, and that it could be used as an alternate source of energy. After I pulled it up, I saw it just shooting all of these lights out of it. And then it went completely black and kind of into this dark energy. And I don't know enough about science, but some sort of a dark alternative energy source that could be created out of it. And then it started to kind of like pull into a funnel, like oh golly, I don't know, almost like a wormhole kind of a thing. And then it shot out the energy again. So there was this definite that once it's gathered together, there could be an alternative form to be able to eradicate even some of the energy problems that we're having.
Wow, that's fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For sharing that.
So anyone else ready to share?
Okay, Judy Ann.
Yeah, it was similar to what she was just saying. What I saw was when we were putting all the energy in, I got really hot, like really, really hot, like I was right in the sun. And then all of a sudden I could see, like you said, the column was made. And then what was happening was there was like energy that formed like a vortex and started pulling the energy up and transforming it into God's love and light healing energy. And when I tuned into the energy before, it was heavy, and now it's lighter and it's sparkling. There's a lot of sparkles, just like she was saying. I saw that too. So it is transforming. It's just like dissolving and creating good energy. That's what I saw.
Thank you. Was there anybody in particular that spoke to you from that conversation? Were you able to tune into that at all? The other beings that are supporting us.
Well, Saint Michael was basically there. I always talked to him, so he was there and orchestrating it. So that's who I saw.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Richard had his hand up. Just a second, Richard, I'll spotlight you. There you go.
Yeah, I live on an island in Maine. I was on the coast earlier today. We have a very rocky island, and my journey, I work often with the stone elemental, and the message that was coming through is it had to do with I was also picking up something that's going on with Pele in Hawaii, which would be at the southwestern edge of this gyre. And but the message really was to take action, and I'm lucky because I have a place where I can do that locally, and that was the message.
Good. Great. Go for it. Thank you.
And Lucille, just a second, I'll spotlight you.
Okay. And then Robin.
Oh, hello. So recently I have connected with Saint Germain, and he's all about the light. So I imagine shooting the light onto the gyre and have it burned up to ashes and released. And I also, what was the other thing? Oh, and Archangel Michael is a protector. And there was something else that we just need to continually invoke the masters out there to help us to come through to take care of the situation. And I feel hopeful because I see a lot of groups out there. And in my area, we signed a petition to put on in November because I live near the marine sanctuary on the Pacific coast to prevent the oil drilling, the fracking. So there are a lot of us out there that are working to alleviate the garbage and the fracking, and we just have to keep hopeful.
Excellent. Thank you. Robin, I think you were next.
Mhm.
Yes, hi. Yeah, almost immediately beginning, I started seeing lightning bolts. And what I sensed, similar to Paula, was in the journey, I sensed the plastic condensing into a column, and it was extending out of the water. And then the whole time I just kept seeing lightning bolts, just this lightning bolt energy. And I actually sensed Zeus, which that's what was coming through. And then in addition to that, it just seemed like we were getting a lot of assistance just a lot of multi-galactic assistance with it. And then I also saw like a spiral of like green energy as well. And then the other thing that I sensed a lot of sounding as well, and just that when we're near water of any kind, whether it's, I'm here on the East Coast and near the Atlantic Ocean, but just to, what I heard was to participate in what I heard was water calls, like calling to the water, talking to the water. So that's
Excellent. Thank you, Robin.
yeah, thank you.
All right. I think, who's next? Lisa? Was it Lisa that's next?
Right, there's Lisa. Okay, just a second. Oh. There.
Oh, did I unmute or am I still muted? Oh,
You're okay. We can hear you.
Okay, hi, Nikki. It's awesome to meet you. I'm so your segment work brought me in, but I'm on board with all of this. So I didn't see as much tonight, but I felt really strongly about doing water rituals. White Feather is my name, but water rituals, and then to support the people that are actually inventing things to actually clean up the ocean. Like, my work is really grounded in doing things in this reality along with the other side. So I wanted to thank you for this and say my message was we need to support the young inventors that are bringing these inventions that are trying to clean up the oceans.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
Jocelyn?
Jocelyn?
Yep, I'm here. I just unmuted. Hi. So my experience was right away Archangel Metatron came in, and his hands were almost like warmed by the sun, and he.
Wait a moment, you're muted. Okay.
Just a second.
Oh, there we go. I unmuted. I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'll start it over. I don't know if I was muted the whole time or not.
Okay. Archangel Metatron.
Yeah, Archangel Metatron came through, and his hands were warmed almost if by the sun, and he began melting all of the small pieces and bigger pieces of plastic all together in different geometric forms until eventually it became a cube, and it changed the current of the water. Once it was like a stationary cube, it changed the circulation of the water's direction. And then there were 4 dolphins that came up from behind that were beaming echolocation at each of the corners to molecularize, I don't know what the word for that, the energy to transform the plastic, I don't know into what, but it was just kind of like this healing process that he was containing all the plastic together in one space and changing the direction of the water.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Elaine had her hand up. Just a second. Elaine. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. You have to unmute first.
To see if my voice will come through anyway. So I did get the column was full of tiny specks of many colors. It was actually very beautiful, lots of bright, the way plastic is, all those bright colors. And then I just kept getting cauldron. And it sort of ties in with what a lot of people have been saying about sort of melting it in. It was like us using our alchemical cauldrons or us scientists and people that, can actually do something, but also our magic as well, that putting things into the cauldron and stirring that and therefore changing it.
Look at
The cauldron was the big word or the big image I kept coming back to.
picture in National Geographic. The colors of plastic.
There.
That kind
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm seeing. The blue, bright blues and reds. And I live at the beach, so I'm often on the beach picking up plastics and dealing with all the micro ones. Is really a challenge.
Yeah, I the art of plastic pollution. They have a chapter on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do a lot of that here. There's a lot of that here.
Got to do something with it. Thank you, Lee. Who else would like to contribute?
Okay, just a second. I don't see a hand up just yet. I'm on page 2.
I'd like to know if there's anybody who heard or engaged in the conversation that was happening between the beings that were invoked that came to support us.
I did.
Yeah? Well, then let's spotlight you. Tell us about it.
Well, it was the way I saw it is they were standing at a big whiteboard, and there was all kinds of like equations, and they were going through different formulas. There was the star beings, there was the council of ascended masters, and all of the guides that we work with, especially in alchemical healing. And they said that they were already in the process of helping microbes to mutate to help with the plastics. And then they were sprinkling like a powder, like dust. And they said that they were microbes that would eat the plastic and help to transform it. And that we should be using all of the elements energetically to help boost this process and help it to further decompose back to its base elements. And I did a really quick search, and apparently they found a bacteria, quite by accident, that let's see, where is it? In 2016, discovery of a bacterium in Japanese waste dump that had evolved to use PET, so polystyrene, whatever, commonly used in drinking bottles around the world as a source of energy. So it's eating it and using it as an energy source, but in that it's also breaking it down.
I'm wondering, that just really triggered me because of the work that Paul Stamets is doing with mushrooms, and how they're like oyster mushrooms can totally transform a waste dump. Does anybody know if there are more mushrooms that can transform plastic?
I don't know, but that came up for me too, Paul Stamets, and it's like there's a interconnection between all of that stuff that is evolving or is coming together.
Now, he did some work for the government in showing them how they can transform waste dumps by growing these mushrooms. And I think that that's a really good source, and maybe we should see if he's already tackled this particular problem and has something he can add that we can all do. So I'd certainly look into that, and I hope some of you will too. And because, you know, if oyster mushroom can transform a waste dump, well, I'm sure there's a lot of plastic in that waste dump.
Mhm.
So there's got to be a connection there. I feel it really strongly. Anyone else have anything to say? There's the chat light's on. Is somebody trying to please?
Lisa wanted to know how to raise a hand.
Got it.
But I
Okay.
think we've already spoken to Lisa.
Should we go into gallery view so you can see if there's any other hands up on either page?
Okay, I'm in gallery view.
Nicole, bring Nicole.
Okay, hold on, Nicole. There we go.
I don't know how to get that note off my thing without making a big. Okay. Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Yeah, well, just like everyone else, was palpable the sense of the column. And then when I called out for help, it was immediate from above. There was a sense of, you know, all this chatter going on. I didn't get any audio as to what it actually was, but it was immediate help from above, like intelligence from above. And in my call for help, I also was, how can we prevent this? Like, this is a losing battle if we keep just dumping just as much garbage into the ocean. And so from the column of plastic, it was like all these threads of aka went out to all those that had created it, the pollution, who contributed to the pollution. And that same repelling energy that was in the column that you were talking about to repel the ocean creatures from the plastic was this repelling the people that had created from continuing to do it. So it was this repellent energy of actually tossing something in the ocean. And I got a sense of that the aka threads would stay with all who it's connected to, and just fuel and feed that repelling nature of creating the pollution, and just that energy would slowly transform and dissipate this column of plastic. So the column itself will help be part of the solution.
Very interesting. So that brings up to me what's really obvious. Probably the most important thing we can do is educate. Educate the fishermen in these places that use plastic nets, turn them on to growing hemp instead of using plastic to make rope. That's probably more durable and certainly more ecologically sound. So that's something that I think we can all think about, is how we can be involved in educating. Who else?
Okay, Abby.
You know, this brings me back to something I saw on Netflix maybe about 2 years ago. Woody Harrelson, the actor, he's very much in favor of hemp. And he might be someone that we could try to get in contact with to see if he could work something out with the fishermen or something like that, because he's very much into that.
So what I'm getting is that whether it's Woody Harrelson or Susan Sarandon or, whatever, or Tom Hanks, the ecologically minded superstars,
Right.
get somebody engaged in focusing on that problem. And the next would come the obvious of making a documentary.
Right.
Oh my goodness, that would be an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm documentarians, and I will definitely take the action of speaking to them. But yeah, thank you, Evie. That's
You're very welcome.
yeah, that's a really good one. So we should probably be winding down. Is there any other hands coming up? The Beatles, somebody just chatted. The Beatles came in and sang "I Get By with a Little Help from My Friend."
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Like that.
we'll get by with a little help. Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Juliana?
Yeah. I had quite the same like Debbie. I saw also we have the help from the beings, from our guides, from many of them. And I saw equally like you a powder that they were spreading, and it was silvery powder.
Yeah.
Perhaps. And I saw the same. And I just want to mention that the plastic problem in water is not only in the ocean.
Yes.
It's also in the rivers, for example, the Amazon. It's the same problem.
Oh, right. That's true.
Yep.
The Great Lake.
I know it's true about the Nile.
Yeah, the Nile too, with all these plastic bags and.
Right.
Yeah. It's not only the ocean.
Well, we had to start somewhere.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good reminder.
Anyone else? Okay, Paula.
Any suggestions from anyone? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Paula.
Sorry, I just wanted to say two things. One is that I got financially supporting young scientists and people who were doing like some of that alternative energy work would help, because there were solutions that people were being given right now, but they need to, they need the funding behind them. And I just popped onto my phone on Facebook. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the very first thing on my feed is a documentary called A Plastic Ocean. And somebody's doing a fundraiser for it or something. A fundraiser for plastic oceans. I don't know. I didn't read it anymore because I'm talking to you guys, but it's a nonprofit organization.
Okay, we can look it up.
Yeah.
Very
Anyone
cool.
else? I don't see any other hands up.
Hey, whoever comes to your mind, just get hold of them if you can. I mean, it can be any star power can be of help, and the more the merrier. We could get a benefit going for the oceans. You're welcome, Lisa. I think it's time to close down. But I want everybody to put out their gratitudes to all the beings that have shown up to help us, and all the ideas that have come through, and to each other for coming on this call and participating. And I just want to thank everyone. for choosing to spend this time with us. And yeah, if anything important comes up, please get a hold of me or find a way to make it happen. You know, together we can make it happen.
Thank you, Nikki, for giving us this opportunity.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
Wait, here's okay, thank you. Thank you, Lucy. I got it. Yeah. Thank you. It was an experiment, and I think we did a really good job. I've already gotten some critiquing that's going to help me if I try doing this again, and I appreciate that. And yeah, until next time.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank
Aloha.
you, Nikki. I'm going to shut the recording off now.